Welcome, welcome, Miss Nikki. How are you?
I'm well, Jocelyn. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Before I give everybody a little rundown on your resume, you have a mom in Florida and she lives very close to where my mom used to live. So, what have you heard for boots on the ground from her down in Florida?
Well, right before we came on here tonight, I texted her. She has not responded yet, it's not unusual. She's not glued to her phone like we are. But yes, she's about 20 minutes outside of Tampa in Newport Richey, and she lives in a mobile home community with many, many elderly and other, different ability types of people, and a lot of them have decided they're going to hunker down and they're going to tough it out. And against mine and my sister's better judgment and urgings, they're still going to stick around. So we're just praying that she stays safe and that 12-foot storm surge doesn't manifest. That's all.
Let's hope so. Now, did you try to fly down? I thought I heard you say, was your flight canceled?
Well, my sister and I were going down just to visit. We had planned this a couple of months ago. We were supposed to leave this morning at 6:00, and we got a text message on Sunday afternoon that our Southwest flight was giving us the option to reschedule or cancel and get a refund because the governor had declared a state of emergency. So we did cancel the flight. They're still cleaning up from the last hurricane. Their neighborhood kind of made out okay, but really close to them, there was a lot of, torn up carports and trees down and everything. They were kind of okay, but this is not going to be the same thing, which is why we were urging them to leave, and they refused. So,
Well, I think it is kind of late right now because from people that I know from down there, I-75 through Tampa is blocked. They're running out of gas. And then immediately after, we've seen on the news, it's bumper to bumper.
Yeah. That's what she said. She's like, what are we going to do? We're going to go and get stuck in traffic. I'm like, not if you had left yesterday, Mom. But she didn't. So we're just going to pray that the good Lord keeps her safe and hope that we get her periodic updates. She said she'll keep her phone charged and only turn it on to text us and shut it off to maintain the battery. So
cool. I love it. Yeah. So let me tell everybody a little bit about you. Because I'm going to have you back on for other subjects, but tonight is semi-serious, and with what's going on in the world with these back-to-back hurricanes, with our infrastructure just crumbling, we've got bridges for no reason having big cargo ships hit them and destroy them. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. We've got fires breaking out for no reason and only certain houses in certain places. So with that in mind, we've all been pretty tied up with existing from day to day. We've been trying to, with the prices going up, making sure we've got food on the table, we can heat the houses, we've got water, we can take care of our cars. There's been some shortages. So people have been pretty busy starting to learn a little bit about life's not quite as perfect as it should be, that things have really changed since Donald J. Trump left office.
Yes.
It's just been really, really a challenge for a lot of people. But in that, we've had an awful lot of people pass away due to medical reasons, passing away because of, we won't say it, and age, not being able to get services that they need. We've got lots of people on the street because we don't have housing. But all that said, we've all forgotten about what is life insurance, what is accidental death coverage, funeral coverage, all the stuff that's really creepy. We don't like to talk about it because then you're talking about death. And we just keep hoping, well, I'll do it tomorrow. But as you once said to me, what if tomorrow doesn't come? What are you going to do? Nothing. But what is your family going to do? What are your kids going to do? What would your husband do or wife, depending on which? And so we really need we really need to have these discussions. They don't have to be all at once and bombarding, which is why I avoided it. And then when I met you, you brought it up in a very calm, professional, caring manner that I wasn't afraid of it. So tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been doing this, why this was such an interest to you, and then we can dive in and you can give us, your talk on what we should be considering, what we shouldn't be afraid of.
Okay. Well, I have worked a handful of jobs throughout my working professional career, various menial, very physical jobs, beating up my body, beating up my brain, different industries. And in March of this year, I was kind of at odds with the management style at the company where I was. That company will remain nameless. They know who they are. And I refused to do something that was completely against my principles. I just refused to do it. I was getting urged to do something, falsifying some information. I refused. So I just rage quit my job. I didn't have another job to go to. I just refused to compromise my integrity at that company for a company that hates us, right? I just decided I was done working places where I'm just a number. So I've always wanted to work for myself. And I don't think I ever had the faith enough in myself that I could do something. I didn't know where to start, what to do. I have so many levels of interest, so many different things that I'm kind of like, I'm half in. Nothing I was a subject matter expert enough that I could start a business with. So I decided after I quit that job, I was going to take a month off and just kind of decompress and find myself and figure it out. And maybe I'll sell stickers on Etsy, or maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll, help people design their gardens because I love gardening. But I didn't have a passion for it at all. And then one day, while looking at my very tired living room walls, I decided I was going to go paint my living room. I have the time, no more excuses. I don't have to go to work. So I went to Home Depot and I pulled into that parking lot and my phone rang, and it was a number I didn't recognize. I swiped it away. I went in, bought all the supplies and the paint. I came out and the woman had left me a voicemail, and it was some random recruiter calling about a career opportunity. And I was very intrigued. So I called her back and said, "How did you get my number?" I hadn't replied anywhere yet. I had just quit the job like a day or two before. And she said, "I don't know." So I was intrigued enough. I listened to her pitch and I met with one of the partners of this company that I work for, the Mort organization. And I was very interested in working for myself as a self-employed independent agent. I knew I was smart enough to take the exam and pass it. And all I needed to do was buy a laptop. And so I did it. And I love it every day. I get to work from home. I meet awesome people over Zoom every day. It's not easy by any stretch, but it's a very rewarding job because people don't realize how unprepared they are. And just sitting with me in an hour's time, getting an education on different things we can tailor fit to their situation, what their goals are. They realize that now they have that peace of mind that they didn't realize they didn't have. Okay. They discover that through our conversation about, well, Jocelyn, if something happened to you, what would your family do? How would they provide for an end-of-life service for you? And most people look at each other. Let's say I'm sitting with a couple. Most of them look at each other and they just have a blank stare like, I don't know. Like, it's certainly not a pleasant conversation. Nobody likes to talk about it. I mean, you don't get together with your friends after work on a Friday night and go out, have pizza and beer and say, "Oh, hey, how's your funeral getting paid for if something happens to you?" Nobody does that. Even husband and wives, families, they just don't do it. Some families I sit with don't even know what they want their end of life service to look like. Are you going to be earth buried traditionally, casket, the whole thing, or are you going to be cremated? I sit with literally hundreds of families in the course of a month that have no idea, none. And it's like, well, what would happen tomorrow if you took a left out of Dunkin' Donuts and some big truck was coming and you didn't see him? What would your wife do?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. So it's really rewarding to be able to get them some level of protection, not bankrupt them in the process. Families having a loved one pass away, medical bills pile up. That's one of the largest statistics of bankruptcy is medical bills.
Correct. Correct.
If someone passes away as a result of a terrible accident or something like that, the family still has to pay those bills or get haunted by bill collectors for years and years and years. It's a really awful position to leave your family in. So that's why I do what I do.
Now, when we were, talking about this the other day and, going through the whole program, there's little, I'll call them kits that are available so that you fill it out and it's, basic bank information, some health information, if you've got a lockbox at the bank, all the different things. If you have life insurance, if you have accidental death coverage, you can put it all onto this paper. And, people say, well, I can do that. But the problem is we don't do it.
Right.
The problem is we don't get to it. And, looking at all these hurricanes and looking at just the way that the world is right now, we really should have some of these things decided. Even if you don't want to discuss them with the family, you at least would like to have this paperwork filled out and in a safe place that you can at least say, if something happens, this is where this is. And they can find it and not have to guess. We have Greta on Wednesday nights at 8:30, protocolkills.com. And on her website, there's paperwork. So if you get ill and you go into the hospital, you've got it notarized that they can do this, they can do that, they can't do this, they can't do that. So we're all learning to do that with the medical hospitals and doctors with what's been going on for the last 3-4 years. So it seems a little more normal to me that we should also be talking about life insurance because, again, what if? What if? How are we going to decide?
Exactly. So when I sit with a client, I provide a whole bunch of different no-cost options for them, a whole bunch of, options you have to qualify for, and they do cost. But one of the no-cost options that I do provide is called the Family Information Guide. And it's a simple one-page document that you pick a rainy Saturday morning, you sit at your kitchen table, you drink your coffee, and just fill it out. It has all of your basic information. It has, any life policies that you might have in place, right? You fill that out, company name, policy number, face amount. Every year in the United States, millions and millions of dollars in life insurance goes unclaimed. Do you have any idea why that is, Jocelyn?
Wow, millions and millions. Is that because you don't have the paperwork or someplace and talk to your family about where these things are, so they have no idea where your bank account is, where this is, where that is. So they're so busy running around taking care of the funeral and whatever else they have to take care of that by the time they figure out, I wonder if, there's a bank account or this, it's too late or they couldn't find it. So it ends up going to the state or to the state, I think. Right,
exactly. Yeah. So if you pay on a life insurance policy for your whole life, you did that with the intent of leaving that behind for your loved ones, right? Your income's no longer coming into the home. So this is your way of providing for them in your absence when you pass. But if you don't let your family know you have policies they're supposed to make a claim on, nobody makes a claim on that policy, right? So the idea of paying for a life insurance policy but not telling anybody about it is completely crazy, especially when everyone that works a regular 9-to-5 job, whatever, most of those people have group coverage through their employer. when you get hired on, you fill out all the HR documents, your W-4s and all of that. Well, one of those documents is probably a group coverage life insurance policy. Maybe it's 1 year's salary. Maybe it's 5 years salary. Maybe it's a month's salary. It's still, you're covered for that under your employer's umbrella. Most people don't know where that document is. I would encourage anybody that's listening to this program right now, if you go to work tomorrow, go to your HR director and say, hey, can I have a copy of our group policy? They will be easily able to print that off or find a hard copy to copy for you and go home and put that in a folder. And then you get these little cards in the mail from your credit union. You have this much coverage just because you're a member here. Get your hands on a copy of that policy. Put that in that folder. Sit down with someone like myself. Get yourself some protection for your funeral expenses. If something happens to you, Jocelyn, what was the plan in your household before you and I sat down last week? What was the plan in your household if something were to happen to you? Who was going to pay for a service for you?
We didn't discuss it. We avoided it.
Right. And it's because nobody wants to talk about that, right? But I sit with families every day that are in the same position. You're not unique there. 90% of the people that I sit with don't have a plan. And I always bring up the example of my next door neighbor. 3 years ago, his wife at 36 years old passed away very unexpectedly. They had no insurance of any kind. She didn't have group coverage at work. He had to pay for all of her final expenses, credit cards. He took out a 401k loan. Now her income is also not coming in. So he is financially devastated by the loss of his wife, mentally devastated by the loss of his wife. Here it is 3 years later. He is in the process of filing for bankruptcy right now because he just cannot get out from under the debt because they didn't have a plan. So unfortunately, thousands and thousands of families end up in that exact same predicament. It's really, really awful. So the programs that I provide are typically about 1 hour of your income. So for example, if I'm sitting down with a husband and wife and the husband makes $20 an hour and the wife makes $16 an hour, we're going to look at trying to tailor fit a program to be no more than $30-ish a week that they're going to pay to have coverage for them and their children. So I can tailor fit a program that is financially comfortable to them because 1 hour on either side of their income is probably not going to make a huge difference in their house, right? If I went into work and my boss says, Nikki, you're the hardest working girl in here. We're going to give you an extra $20 a week. That's certainly not going to make a huge difference in my household. I'm not going to call the husband and say, oh, you know that big motorcycle you've been wanting? We'll go ahead and buy it now. $20. But the same thing, if I walked into, this fictitious job and said that my boss says, oh, well, okay, everybody, we have this new benefits program, but everyone's going to have to contribute an extra $20 a week to participate in it. I'm also not going to call my husband and say, we probably ought to sell your four-wheeler because now I'm going to be short $20 a week, right? So 1 hour on either side of my income isn't going to make a big deal. So that's kind of the idea behind how we tailor fit the program to make it affordable. It's called the hour of power principle. You pay yourself first. The first hour of your work week, you pay yourself first. You protect your family. Then the other 39 hours, any bonus or overtime you use to pay your obligations, your bills, your fund money, your savings, all the other stuff we need to do. Most people, if you really think about it, can find an extra $20 in their wallet at the end of a week just by analyzing what they spend money on every day. Do you go to Dunkin' Donuts every day? Do you really need that scratch ticket? Do you really need to have that extra beer when you go out with your buddies after work on Friday night? Everybody can find it if you look hard enough, right? And Correct. This is such money well, much better spent. It's well worth the investment to protect your family come funeral time. It really is the gift that you can leave behind. It's the shield you leave behind when you're no longer there to protect your family. Absolutely.
And what I like, I have talked to several people in the past, and in full disclosure, it was difficult because there was high pressure. there was no explanation of, the hour of power. I think that's what you said. Yep. And tailoring it to what you can afford. It was always like, this is the best, and this is this, and this is what you have to have. And you're like, and it's very scary. It's overpowering, and you're like, I can't deal with it right now. And I very much liked what your approach was and the company. And I've talked to a few people about it and said, hey, listen, we all really need to think about this. We should, have these discussions. Maybe, a bunch of us could get together and just have, hey, what would you do? What would you do? And just sort of break the ice kind of thing. And it's something that we all avoid because life is too busy and too crazy.
Everybody says they'll get to it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. You always say, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then life insurance is very driven by age and health, right? So you're only as young and healthy as you are right now.
Yep.
Tomorrow you're a day older, right? But people put it off and put it off. You age and life insurance gets more expensive the older we get. Or you develop a medical condition and then you're either paying a huge premium because you're, more of a risk, or you don't qualify, you're uninsurable because of whatever that is. So it's always good to look at it as young as you can possibly get it because it's so cheap. I just wrote a policy yesterday for a young woman. She is 20 years old. Her parents urged her to do it. They have a policy with me. They urged her to get her coverage. Her policy is $31 a month, and she has funeral coverage, $250,000 in death coverage. In addition to the funeral, she has living benefits that if you go to the ER or urgent care, our company pays her $250 to go get checked out after an injury. So it's a pretty comprehensive program. But my goal is to make sure that it's affordable. If you come across as you need $1 million in coverage, automatically people are going to attribute that to being expensive. You have to listen to the client, see what their goals, what their needs are, what their financial situation is. Do they have other policies, right? You think you have policy at work. Okay, so how much is it? Do you even know? You have to find out, right? You don't know how much it is. But a work policy is only temporary. It's just like term insurance. It's only there while you're working there. If you go to retire, you don't take that with you. If you change employers, now you're under a different group policy, different amount of money. It could be a different structure, could be a waiting period. You don't know. So when people say, I have coverage through my work, you have it while you're working.
Yeah, you're asking, where can people find you? What is your website address?
My website is nikkiforlife.com, FOR, life, LIFE.com.
.com. Yeah, because I think it would be nice, no pressure to anybody, so don't take this wrong. This is all about having a very nice person that cares, that feels the way we do, that we have to be able to afford these things in order to protect our families, because we say it, but we don't do it. And Nikki is that person. And I'm sure there's other people out there, but,
of course. I work with all sorts of different types of people, anywhere from young 20-year-old girl that works in a retail store to elderly people that want to leave a little bit behind or cover their funeral. I work with everyone in between. I do the whole thing over Zoom, so I don't come camp out at your kitchen table. It is not a high-pressure sales. I listen. I ask lots of questions to get a good picture of what you guys need. I show you what your life expectancy is based on how old you are, and then we can kind of figure out, okay, so if you want to be buried, you're going to look for, you're going to want to make sure you have about this much put aside somehow. I mean, nobody I know has $20,000 sitting in a bank account waiting for their loved one to pass away. 0 people I know have that. So this is a very inexpensive way to provide for that and not have your family put out GoFundMes and credit card debt, right?
Yep. So let's just throw in a couple figures before I let you go.
Sure.
Because we're definitely going to have you back to talk about some other different protections and stuff. We don't want to overwhelm everybody. I just wanted them to meet you and just see that it's not as god awful scary as we think.
It's really not. It's the most responsible thing you can do for your family. It really is.
Well, exactly. It's, I mean, and we're all worrying about, what medical coverage we should have, what medical procedures we should have, what we should and shouldn't do. So this is just another item post-COVID that we need to be paying attention to. So this, you had told me that a cremation today is approximately, I think you said $7,000. And then
pull the sheet up right now because now you're putting me on the spot. Okay, so today, the average cost of a cremation today is about $7,380 average. Okay, that can be varied by, I just want to be in a plastic bag in a wooden box, or I want a nice urn, so it might be a little pricier. So that's the average cost. So let's take me for an example. I'm 51 years old. According to the life expectancy chart, I am expected to live another 31 years, say. So if I'm going to be cremated, which I am, at $7,400 right now, 31 years from now, that same cremation service is going to be about $18,500 at 3% inflation. That's, projected, but it's fairly accurate because I have spoken to families and asked them, what did you pay their mom just passed away last week or last month or whatever. And the figures are pretty close. They're within a couple $100. So I think the chart is pretty accurate. So does anyone I know have $18,000 sitting in a bank account to pay for my cremation? The answer is obviously no. Nobody does. I mean, most families can't keep their lights their electric bill paid on time every month, right?
Correct.
This is still important stuff because once you're gone, the family still has to continue on somehow. Correct. So that's why I want to listen to the family dynamic, listen to their situation, what their goals are. Everything that we sit and put together can always be built on later. So your financial situation is going to improve later on. We'll get you a little bit of coverage now, and then we can revisit it a year from now, 5 years from now, and get you a little bit more to get you right where you need to be. Right?
So like a yearly checkup type of thing, making sure that you're keeping up with what's going on.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and discussing this. It's, again, like I said, not a fun topic, but it's a necessary topic, and it's what we can do for our families. And I certainly appreciate you coming on, and I'd love to invite you to come back, and maybe I can get some questions from people that they might like to ask that, they don't want to do face-to-face with someone else, but, kind of get a feeling for what's going on. What do you what are they thinking? What are they afraid of? And what would their questions be? I think that would be fun.
I would love that. And I appreciate you having me on today, Jocelyn. And I look forward to chatting with you again.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back, and we're going to, talk about fun stuff, and then have you come back again and talk about the important stuff again, because there's a whole nother side to you that I'd like, people to know. We've been to court together, so we have some other little connections there, and we'll be able to talk about what's going on out there.
The State House. Talk about the State House all you want.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. Feel free to hang around. I'm going to do a couple of pictures and go into my outro, and I will talk with you again. Again, thank you, Miss Nikki Carter, and that's Globe Life, and I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you too. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.